Hello students, in this video we are going to study the types of threads. So there are two types of threads. One is user level threads and the kernel level threads. So do you remember in first or second video I have explained the two modes of our operating system, that is user and kernel mode, right? So user mode and kernel level. So if the thread is running in a user mode, that will be called as a user level, and similarly if the thread is running under kernel mode, that will be called as the kernel level threads. Okay, so first we'll go for user level threads. So in user level threads, the threads are loaded entirely in a user space or in a user mode. Okay, what I told now. So the kernel does not know anything about the user level threads. Okay, so when in user level threads, the threads are loaded entirely in user space or in a user mode. The kernel knows nothing about them. Okay, so now when the threads are managed in the user mode, the process it knows its means the process is going to have its own private thread table. So what is private thread table? So do you remember the PCB, that is process control block? The each process is going to have the PCB. So similarly in this user level thread, so if the thread is running under a user mode, so in this the threads are managed in the user mode. So in this the process is going to have the separate thread table. Okay, so again this thread table is going to contain the same like PCB, that is program counters, stack, registers and so on. That is, and one more is state of a thread. Okay, so now one more thing is a user level thread. In user level thread, the thread library is going to contain the code for creating and the destroying the threads. Means when the thread is in this user level threads, the thread library contains the code for creating and destroying the threads. So why? Because for passing the message, or you can say a context switching, or even for the scheduling purpose. Okay, means what? For creating and destroying threads means what? When the creating same like our process states, here also the threads are going to have the same states. Okay, that is ready, it may be a new, ready, run and waiting. Okay, and terminated. So similarly here also this thread library is going to contain the creating and destroying the threads. So again one more is it is going to help for the context switching also. So now in this you can see here there is a diagram of user level threads and the kernel level thread. So the left one is the user level thread. So you can see here how many threads are running here, or you can say I have mentioned in this diagram user space is there, means the thread should be run under this mode only. Okay, so kernel space, the kernel doesn't know any about the threads. Okay, so one more, each uh, thread is going to have its own thread table. So that is thread table has been shown here, and similarly the process has been shown and thread has been shown. So in this process there are three threads are running. Similarly in right side we are having the kernel level thread. So in kernel thread, okay, first I will explain the kernel level thread and then I will explain the diagram. So kernel level threads means what? The kernel knows and it manages the all the things about the threads. Okay, the kernel knows and manages the threads. So instead of thread table, so in user level we are going to have the thread table, but not in kernel level thread. So instead of thread table, in each process the kernel itself is going to have the has the thread table, that is you can say a master thread table. You can say instead of thread table in each process, the kernel is going to have its own thread table, master table you can say, that keeps track of all the threads in the system, and it also maintains the PCB, process control block, for processes. Okay, so now it is good for applications that frequently block. So advantages of kernel level thread is it is good for applications that frequently block. So because whenever the blocked, we need to switch from one thread to another thread. Okay, so what is the disadvantage of kernel thread? So disadvantages are, it is slow and inefficient, and it requires the thread control block, so it is an extra overhead you can say. So coming back to the kernel level diagram, so here you can see the kernel, right side we are having the kernel level thread. Okay, so now here the kernel knows everything about the threads here. Okay, so now again here the process is there, thread is there. So in this process we are having the threads, and in kernel level we are going to maintain the process table and including the a thread table. So thread table, how it is managing, thread table is managed by the kernel itself, the master one. So instead of thread table for each thread, the for whole threads we are maintaining a single thread table you can say, that is a master one we can say, just for keeping track of all the threads in the system. Okay, so one more thing, advantages of user level threads. So it can be implemented on OS. So the user level threads are implemented in all the operating system except the can be implemented on an OS, that the OS which does not support the multi-threading. So in multi-threading it is not going to be work. Okay, so it is in user level threads a simple representation, just for it is going to have the program counter, registers and stack, and thread switching is fast because the system calls need to be made here. Okay, and disadvantage is what, here there is a less communication or no communication among the threads and kernel, because the kernel doesn't know about anything about the threads. So if one thread causes the page fault, the entire process is going to block. So this page fault we are going to study in the third unit. Clear? So these are the two types of threads. So in this threads, I think I have made a four videos for the threads. One is just for introduction, and in that I have explained the similarities and the difference between the threads, and in next video I have explained the multi-threading, and in third video I have explained the context switching, and later this is the fourth one. So here ends the thread concept. So in next we'll see in next video I'll start the a new topic. Clear? Thank you.